This video is actually going to be about taking one of those plants that's been sitting on my porch, just shooting in growth all summer long, and trimming it up, chopping everything down, making it look like a tiny little bonsai forest. That's sort of the vision that I had in my head anyways. Let's go get a shot of the dwarf jade plant first. As dwarf jade plants do, it's been doing its thing all summer long. Now I've been admiring that dwarf jade plant all summer long, sprouting its new dew, getting ready for its haircut, and today's the day. I don't know, it's just an idea, but I think it's gonna be super cool to turn our once kind of bushy, overgrown dwarf jade plant into a tiny micro little forest of dwarf jade plants. So let's get to work, let's get back out there, and let's see what we can do with this thing. Now selfishly, the other reason I wanted to make this video is because I saw on YouTube a guy doing a bonsai video, and he had one of these spinny trays, and I just had to get one. I thought it would be so cool. We're gonna be taking good advantage of our snippers right here. I don't know if we'll use these ones, but we got them just in case. As usual, I got a couple cute little tools. We'll probably scrape the ground up in the end like this. I don't know what these will be for, but we've got everything we might need to give a plant a haircut, and let's get into it. Let's do that. It's always a little bit kind of overwhelming in the beginning to make that first cut. It's observing your plant. Everything's kind of swirling around. You know, the options are almost endless at this point. What do we do? I'll tell you what the first thing we're gonna do is. We're gonna spin our plant around on our new spinny plant mat. Do you see the way that this dwarf jade plant kind of almost has a little bit of a trunk thing going on in there? So let's stop talking. Let's start cutting. We're gonna take off. Let's get rid of all of the tall stuff in the first place. Let's make it easy. Let's not make any design decisions. Let's just start trimming off the excess. When you make your cuts, you always want to cut between the nodes. A node is anywhere that you're seeing leaves coming out of. So there's a node right there, and there's a node right there. If I was gonna cut this stem right here, which I'm not going to, I would cut it right here in the middle of those two nodes. Can you see? Oh man, I can't make the cut yet. I gotta give you an up close. There. And now the very best thing about this is that this is gonna become an entirely new dwarf jade plant too. So all of this cutting isn't gonna be in vain. Every time this dwarf jade plant here sprouts a new little sprig of hair on its head, we get to cut that off, we can root this thing, and we can turn it into a brand new plant. So make sure to save your cuttings here. Now let's actually just get into this. I'm gonna stop talking so much. I'm gonna start trimming just all of these big, long, ridiculous looking strands that have come out of this thing. Let's cut them off. We're gonna cut these nice and close to the base. Boop. Beep. Bloop. Being as gentle as I can, I want to compact this little bushel and make it into a tiny little tree, or at least having the appearance of a tiny little tree. And to do that, we just have to get rid of all of these big shoots. That one got me in the eye. I hope that's not going to do anything bad to my eye. It's always good to give yourself a fresh perspective. Now, how do you give yourself a fresh perspective? Well, after you've been staring at your plant, you know, with your magnifying glass, making all of your cuts for, you know, what has it been? Maybe 10 minutes or so here, 20 minutes or so. After you've been staring at your plant up close for so long, by stepping away, by clearing your mind, by thinking about something else for just a moment, it'll give you that moment when you come back to this plant, when you look at it with a brand new, fresh perspective, like you're seeing it for the first time. And I don't know, inspiration always seems to live in those moments for some reason. So, and we're back. See what I mean about a fresh perspective? Another way that you can look at this is just kind of taking a step back so that you can see everything as a whole. Sometimes just changing the position of where you're looking at something from will give you a whole new viewpoint into it. And doesn't this turny table make it so much more pleasant to do all of that? Now I think we got to start working on the top of this tree here. Got to start taking this thing down a little bit in height, like so. Okay. So at this point, what I'm calling our mother or our biggest tree in the forest is about all we've got left. We've probably got a few little details left on the smaller trees in front there, but for now I want to concentrate on this one and just really do what I can at this point to clip everything, to just clean it up. I love the phrase a symbiotic relationship. I like to think that this plant, you know, knew to trust me to make the snips wherever necessary to allow it to become what it's truly meant to be. How do I know it's meant to be? This? I'm doing it. It has to be meant to be, because it is. But now we're getting too deep. It's starting to look a little bit more like a miniature forest from above. How's it from the front? Ooh, even more so from the back. I think this is going to be pretty much it for the cutting, guys. So let's give you another close shot of me doing this little bit of detail work. Basically what I'm doing is I'm pulling apart these little branches and just cutting the teeniest little pieces off just to kind of thin it out. I mean, there's even some detail work left on these littler plants in the front. If I'm trying to make any sort of point in this video, the point is don't be afraid to cut your plants here. This is our influence. This is what we get to do. This is our little reward for growing these things. To be honest with you, the hardest part is knowing when to stop. Getting started seemed like it was going to be the hardest part, but then we got rolling, and now the hard part is actually learning where to stop. You want to find that balance. You don't want to do it too much, but you also don't want to leave. You don't want to get too attached to all that new growth and leave it, because you know growth is abundant. It's gonna fill this plant once again, but it's gonna be even better. Everywhere we make a snip is ideally gonna turn into something that's better and more appealing. It's little things like this that I'm noticing, just like branches that are kind of just shooting off in such an aggressive direction at this point. So we're just gonna take those things, we're gonna snip them back down, we're gonna bring them back down to reality, and yeah. I'm really debating right now if I should get down into this actual soil and pull these plants out and sort of, you know, kind of break them apart and replant them even. What I don't like is how they're kind of leaning over to the sides and things like that. I think it's still giving us that appearance of one singular plant, and what I'm really going for here is a miniature little forest of individual plants. And talking to you, I think, has encouraged me to go forward with my gut and to, I guess we're gonna dig this thing up and we're gonna break these things apart into their own little individual plants. I'm not sure if this is the best idea, but we're gonna be able to reposition them in here, and I think it's gonna be better in the end for all of us. While we're at it, should we repot this thing? I've been debating on this pot or this one right here. This is how I like to try anyways to do my pots, or to unpot my plants. So I try and shove my fingers down like that and just feel my way to the bottom of that root. Okay, I've got it. It's about to get messy. So I'm moving into my bucket. But there we go, easy as that. don't have very many opportunities to work with your plant's roots. Anytime you're in there, take that opportunity to kind of get in there. We're going to clean all these dangling roots. We don't need any of that stuff. Again, the goal is to turn this one big plant into 3 little plants. How we're going to do that, this is going to seem a little bit aggressive. I'm going to grab a ball of the soil around the bottom of one of them, just separating it out like that, and I'm going to tear it off. Just like that. We've got our own individual plant. You want to get some of the roots, which is the reason that you're just kind of making that ball around it. Now I'm going to pull our other. Let's just separate these 2. Believe it or not, these roots actually hang on pretty good. Alright, I think we've got everyone separated. Now what we want to do is we just want to trim all of these roots off. It's a plant, they'll grow back, that's what they do. I can't believe I didn't even consider it. Oh, look at this thing. Is this not one of the coolest dang pots you ever did see? I thought it was one of the coolest dang pots I ever did see, and that's why I bought it when I found it on Facebook Marketplace. I just thought it was a good opportunity when we're working with our first plant here to explain that how when I shove this in the ground, what I really want to do. So now that we've got these roots all cleared out, we're going to take them, and when we get them in the ground, we're going to flatten them out as best as we can. And not only that, but the whole reason that we separated this plant in the first place was that so I could stand this thing up nice and straight down in the bowl there. And that's what we're gonna do. So let's dig our little bit of a trench here. Flatten those roots out nice, and let's see if we can pull some of this over here. Potting's kind of messy business, guys. Can you see good? Should I give you a bit of a better angle? Pull some of this dirt out of here. Get that plant in there. Flatten it down nice. And then cover it back up and give it a little smoosh into place. A little smoosh of love into place is what I like to call it. Ta-da! This is the front view. This is the best view. But don't worry, I'll also give you a spin. Nice and slowly. See, I especially designed it to where these 2 little trees in the front were kind of opening in, pointing back at the larger mother tree in the back here. Just want to give a little bit of a spin while we're at it. And I'll show you why in just a second. This is part of the fun part though, is really you can grab these trees individually and just, with a little bit of force, position them exactly how you want. So the other reason that I positioned it like that is, do you see how I've created sort of a circle here? But that's not it. I've got one more trick up my sleeve to make this thing look nice and finished and complete. And that's just, a couple basic terrarium supplies, some stones, some sheet moss. And what we're gonna do with this stuff specifically the sheet moss, is when you're in, having a nature walk through a forest and you look down at the base of the trees, how they generally are, surrounded by some sort of a mossy substance or some fern plants or something like that. Well, that is essentially what we're going to be doing or replicating with our, I'm not even sure what type of moss this is, but just give it a nice up close look because the detail alone will inspire you. We need to sort of tie everything together. We've got a great base. I wish I had started the day out knowing that I was going to be using this pot. But I'm also glad that it was such a nice magical surprise that I got to share with you. But nonetheless, we've got our great little pot here. We've got our trees all separated. Everything's looking like a miniature little forest. And now we've just got to bring it all together. Pull it apart. Moss doesn't have roots. So basically, wherever you place it, it will eventually sort of just anchor itself back into, which you can be even less delicate with moss. Maybe that's why it's my favorite plant. No. The reason it's my favorite plant is because I'm thinking about why it's my favorite plant. There's so many reasons. It's just so unique. It's so adaptable. But in the same way, moss it's always just doing its thing, It's just doing its thing, and what it's doing is so dang magical. Let's get back to mossing. Just a tiny little bit around these trees. At this point, I'm practically creating a terrarium, which, believe it or not, I actually considered for this project, but I changed my mind. I'll tell you what, I'll do this as my last faraway shot like this, and then I'll bring you back in for a POV of when this thing is all nice and finished up. And there we have it. Just a couple little rocks in the middle there to kind of bring everything together, make it all look like it was meant to be. Well, I started going around and I forgot that I could set you up an even better one. Kind of weird with my finger in it, but hey, let's see how much it'll spin if I just get it going. Not all the way. Let's do it a little bit slower. I think you can get ones of these that are motorized and will automatically just like keep spinning for you. But we're not going crazy like that yet. We're just sitting here building Dwarf Jade little bonsai forests in rustic cement pots. What a pleasant little treat. Now you might be asking yourself, well, what about all those little plant babies that you cut off your Dwarf Jade? Well, I've got them here, a whole plate full. And although we're not going to use all of these, I am going to go through and pick the best of the best. Something like this one maybe. We're going to pinch these little leaves near the base off. And just like so. Maybe go up even a little bit further. We're trying to give this little baby some room to shoot some new roots. So we pick our little leaves off. We've got a bowl full of sphagnum moss, and the process is simple. We stick our little Dwarf Jade down into that moss, just as if it were growing in soil. We're going to keep this moist. And over time, our new little dwarf baby jade plant will sprout new legs of its own, and we can plant it in its own pot. And now we can finally say that we're done. This project actually turned into something even closer to my heart than I thought it was going to from the first place. the fact that we perfectly matched that rustic cement pot as if it had been waiting in my garage for our little dwarf jade forest all this time is it's one of those magical moments. I can't believe I'm doing the outro without holding our new forest in my hand. Let me go get it. Oh man, I just realized we once again didn't get to use our cute little tools. It's okay. So this was building a miniature dwarf jade forest in a rustic cement pot, mind you. I can't imagine it working out more perfect than it did, and to be honest with you, I'm kind of out of things to say. Let's find a place to put this plant. Let's maybe give it a spritz, and that'll be it. Let's give our new little forest the spritzing it deserves. Here's our last little baby, getting all tucked into bed, down in the sphagnum moss. Dang, that thing looks good glistening in the sunlight.